Andreas Munzer was the kind of competitor everyone admired for his unassuming attitude. He was quiet, humble, and incredibly dedicated to his craft. His relentless pursuit of perfection in bodybuilding is perfectly exemplified by his unmatched muscle definition. Andreas displayed an exceptional physique with impeccable proportions and impressive muscle mass. Weighing 108 kilograms of solid muscle, 238 pounds, he stood out on stage with 53 centimeters arms, 21 inches, chest muscles so developed they appeared inverted, and shoulders that resembled mountains. He wasn't just a complete athlete, but also a crowd favorite around the world, thanks to his unique combination of symmetry and definition. Many consider him the most defined athlete in bodybuilding history. His appearance was almost terrifying, as if he had practically zero body fat, something few can achieve. Though Munzer's physique seemed to be from a perfect world, like in Bobby's World, the reality behind his life was much harsher. There's a famous saying, "What attracts you can one day betray you." And unfortunately, that seems to be exactly what happened to him. His extreme dedication to the sport, while it propelled him to the top, also brought devastating consequences. Despite being an excellent athlete and an admirable person, all of this was overshadowed by his tragic death, which shook the bodybuilding community worldwide. But what exactly influenced his death? And why was it such a powerful and impactful event? Stick around because I'll tell you the real story behind Andreas Munzer and how this pursuit of perfection ended up being fatal. Before we continue, if you value the content I bring and want to help this channel keep growing, become a member. It makes a huge difference and allows me to produce more videos like this. And if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe, like the video, and hit the notification bell to get updates. That way, YouTube knows this content deserves more visibility and you won't miss any of the upcoming videos. Now, let's get straight to the point. Andreas Munzer was born on October 25, 1964, in the small and quiet Austria, growing up on a rural dairy farm where his family produced milk. This environment gave him a childhood full of physical labor, helping with farm chores and developing a strict discipline early on. Young Andreas soon developed a remarkable work ethic, which would be crucial in his future bodybuilding career. During his teenage years, he started working at a tool factory located about 10 kilometers, 6.2 miles, from his home. The commute was long, and after a tiring day, he still had to wait 2 hours for the bus to take him back home. It was during this waiting period that Andreas discovered a local gym and, out of sheer curiosity, decided to start weightlifting to pass the time. This seemingly casual decision was the turning point in his life. Bodybuilding quickly became a passion, and it soon became clear that Andreas had a natural talent for the sport. As the years passed, he dedicated himself more seriously to training, and his muscle gains were visible to the naked eye. In the early 80s, determined to pursue a bodybuilding career, Munzer moved to Germany. There, he found a gym where he could train with more structure and began seeking out competitions. His motivation was unbeatable, and each day, he saw himself getting closer to his goal. His progress was so rapid that in 1986, at just 20 years old, Munzer stepped onto the stage for the first time in a major competition, the European Amateur Championship, where he finished 6th in the middleweight category. This placement was an important milestone, as it opened the doors for his journey in competitive bodybuilding. 2 years later, Andreas Munzer achieved an even greater feat, finishing 3rd at the 1988 Amateur World Championships. This victory earned him professional status, a recognition that few achieve in such a short time. The following year, in 1989, Munzer made his debut on bodybuilding's biggest stage, the prestigious Mr. Olympia. Although he finished in 13th place, this was a respectable position considering his limited experience as a professional. He was just beginning to carve out his path among the sport's giants. A few months later, Munzer claimed his first professional victory at the 1989 World Games, finishing in 1st place and solidifying his position as one of the rising talents in the bodybuilding world. But Andreas Munzer didn't stop there. In 1990, he competed in the iconic Arnold Classic, one of the most prestigious competitions in the world, and secured an impressive third place. His relentless dedication and continuous evolution began to gain attention not only in Europe but also internationally. His journey in the sport was marked by numerous competitions over the years, and in each one, he appeared more evolved, both in muscle mass and definition. A detail that few people know is that Andreas was a great admirer of his fellow countryman, Arnold Schwarzenegger. To him, Schwarzenegger was not just a sports icon but a true inspiration, someone who had reached the pinnacle of success in bodybuilding, cinema, and life. In many ways, Munzer aspired to follow in his idol's footsteps, though his journey took a very different path. Reports indicate that Andreas Munzer had an almost obsessive dedication to his diet, restricting himself to an extremely limited diet throughout his career, based primarily on foods like chicken breast and rice. His pursuit of physical perfection eventually led him to compete in the 1996 Arnold Classic, where he finally met his idol, Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's said that Andreas couldn't hold back tears upon meeting Arnold backstage, and the moment was so impactful that the two had a long conversation and ended up becoming friends. Many believe that Schwarzenegger saw in Munzer a younger version of himself, full of dreams and with an immense drive to succeed. This emotional connection left its mark on the history of bodybuilding. Despite his incredible muscle definition, Andreas Munzer's best result at the Mr. Olympia was a 9th-place finish, a position he achieved in 3 different editions. Though his physique was impressive, he faced criticism regarding the back of his thighs and glutes, which were considered disproportionate compared to the rest of his body. At the time, these details significantly influenced the judges' decisions, which may have hindered his career in the sport. However, what truly made Andreas stand out in the competitive scene was his extreme definition and his body fat percentage, which reached alarmingly low levels. During the 1996 competition, reports state that he had a body fat percentage of just 3%, something almost unheard of and extremely risky for his health. In addition to being recognized on stage, Andreas also appeared in renowned publications, gracing the covers of Flex magazine twice, as well as Muscle Magazine International. His media presence highlighted his extraordinary dedication, earning him constant praise for his discipline and focus. However, as he prepared for the 1996 Arnold Classic, his extreme pursuit of physical perfection began to take its toll. Little did fans and Andreas himself know that this year would mark the beginning of his health decline. His greatest strength, the ability to achieve levels of definition never seen before, ultimately became his greatest weakness. As previously mentioned, Andreas Munzer's body reached an alarming 3% body fat, an extremely low and dangerous level for human health. This percentage, combined with his strict diet, intense workouts, excessive drug use, and lack of proper rest, turned his body into a ticking time bomb, ready to explode at any moment. Munzer began to suffer from terrible abdominal pain, but instead of seeking medical help, he resorted to medication that temporarily masked the pain, allowing him to continue his exhausting routine. Unfortunately, these pains were caused by tumors forming in his body, and since he didn't undergo regular medical checkups, his health deteriorated rapidly without him realizing it. On March 12, 1996, Andreas was finally taken to the hospital, suffering from severe abdominal pain and internal bleeding. Contrary to circulating rumors, he did not die on a plane, but after an emergency landing due to the severity of his condition. In the hospital, his organs began to fail rapidly. Both his liver and kidneys had stopped functioning, and Munzer's condition was dire. Doctors attempted to save him by performing surgery to contain the internal bleeding and administered blood transfusions to stabilize him. However, Andreas's potassium levels were dangerously high, and he was suffering from severe dehydration caused by the excessive use of diuretics in the weeks leading up to a competition. The use of diuretics is common among bodybuilders to help eliminate excess water and enhance muscle definition, but Andreas took it to the extreme, seriously compromising his health. Despite medical efforts, Munzer's condition was too critical to reverse. Just 2 days after being admitted, on March 14, 1996, Andreas Munzer passed away at the age of 31. His premature death profoundly shook the bodybuilding community, serving as a grim warning about the risks of uncontrolled substance use and the relentless pursuit of physical perfection at any cost. According to the documentary Generation Iron, Andreas Munzer's autopsy revealed the true impact that years of excess in bodybuilding had inflicted on his body. Upon examination, it was clear that his organs couldn't withstand the constant strain he had placed on himself. His liver and kidneys had failed, and his condition was so critical that doctors saw no possibility of effective treatment. On March 14, 1996, Andreas died of multiple organ failure, leaving the bodybuilding community in shock. One of the most striking aspects of the autopsy was the weight of Munzer's heart. It weighed around 636 grams, nearly double the weight of a healthy human heart, which typically ranges between 300 and 350 grams. This highlights the extreme toll his body had endured over the years. Additionally, tennis ball-sized tumors were found in his liver, a devastating finding for someone who had dedicated his life to building a perfect body. Another disturbing fact is that Munzer had traces of about 20 different substances in his body at the time of his death, including 2 very potent diuretics, aldactone and Lasix, which he used to eliminate excess water and achieve an even more defined look on stage. The abuse of these drugs was crucial to the collapse of his body, which had deteriorated to such a degree that some reports suggest his body, at the time of death, resembled a raw mass of flesh. If these accounts are true, the image is incredibly shocking and reveals the high price Munzer paid in his pursuit of physical perfection. At his funeral, Arnold Schwarzenegger, his idol and friend, sent a wreath of flowers in his honor, a gesture that symbolized the deep connection between the two. Although Munzer competed alongside Arnold at the famous 1996 Arnold Classic, his career became more defined by the tragedy of his death than by his achievements on stage. Andreas was a remarkable athlete, known for his extreme dedication and unwavering discipline, but unfortunately, the excess use of chemicals and the relentless quest for perfect definition ultimately cost him his life. Many remember him as one of the most defined bodybuilders in history, but also as a tragic example of what can happen when the limits are pushed too far. In an interview before his death, Andreas Munzer gave a statement that continues to haunt those who followed his career. He told journalist Peter McGoffey, "I have no real plans for my future. I am a bodybuilder, and I don't know what lies ahead." This phrase reflects the mindset of many athletes who are so focused on their physique that they lose sight of other aspects of life. Peter McGoffey, who interviewed Andreas, revealed that these words stayed in his mind for a long time, showing how deeply Andreas lived in the present without considering the long-term impact of his choices. In the end, Munzer's promising career was cut short by a tragedy that could have been avoided, if not for the excesses that defined his life. Now, the question remains, was the sacrifice worth it? There's no denying that Munzer was one of the most dedicated athletes of his generation, but his story serves as a stark reminder of the dangers associated with excessive substance use in bodybuilding. What do you think of this journey? Was Andreas Munzer's death inevitable given the abuses in the sport? I want to hear your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoyed this content, don't forget to share it with friends who also need to hear this story. Your support is essential to keep bringing videos like this. Leave a like, hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next videos, and see you next time.